Rogers Gardens, we believe that fall is for planting. I'm Suzanne, and today we're going to be discussing plants that you can put into your garden during the fall, and they will send their roots out during the cooler weather, and then in spring they will thrive and explode with growth. Here in Southern California, fall is the best time for planting. The weather is cooler. You can get out in the garden and it's far more enjoyable than doing it on a hot, spring or summer day. The roots will get established, they're going to grow, and then come spring, everything will be more successful. You don't have to water as much, you don't have to tend it as much. So I'm going to show you some different groups of plants that you can use to improve your garden. So natives are a little bit finicky about when they get planted. They really like being planted in fall, and this is because, again, they can send their roots down. And native plants, a lot of people don't realize this, you can mix them with other plants as long as you're aware of their water needs. And native plants can be anything from low-growing ground cover, of course, all the way up to mighty oaks. So some of the low-growing ground covers that you can put in that are native and that will really mix with other plants is something like yarrow or achillea. This one grows really low, and the really nice thing is that come spring and summer, it's going to have flowers coming out of the top. You can get it in every color from white to yellow to orange to pink, but as the flowers die back, then you will just be left with this beautiful carpet of green during the cooler weathers, and it is so nice. You can even walk on it if you like. So yarrow is a great choice for a low-growing ground cover. Another low-growing plant that is a native is ceanothus. This one is Yankee Point, and one of the really cool things about ceanothus, other than the fact that it's a native with a really gorgeous shiny green leaf, which a lot of people don't think of when they think of natives, is that it has beautiful blue flowers in the spring, and they come out. And because this is a lower growing one, a ground cover one, I also want to mention that ceanothus comes in everything up to pretty much tree height. There's a variety called Ray Hartman, and it can get up to 20 feet tall and is just gorgeous in gardens. There is another low-growing ground cover type of plant that is a native. This is a native manzanita. It's Arctostaphylos. It's called emerald carpet. And again, Arctostaphylos or manzanita can start as a very low-growing ground cover like this, and there are also varieties that can be really quite tall. So any kind of look that you're going for, this has a beautiful red stem. It has really cute little white pinky bell-shaped flowers in the spring. And so whether you grow for ground cover or for a tall tree shrub, this manzanita does not look kind of dry and boring. This is a very strong, exciting plant, and either of these can also be used on hillsides to help anchor it. So for a beautiful pop of color, you can add one of these Heperociperus into your garden. This is Wilma Goldcrest, and it'll get about 6 to 8 feet tall. This stunning lime green color with all of the gray greens and the dark greens of the other natives would be so beautiful to anchor, just like a little spot to kind of bring it all out and bring it together. And then of course, if you really want to plant for the future, planting an oak is a great way to kind of send a message to future generations. Of course, you may not be able to enjoy it quite as much as your grandchildren will, but an oak is always a great choice. And lastly, so many people like to enjoy color in their garden, and you can do that with a native garden. You're just going to have to plan it well. So we have beautiful asters and penstemon, and of course the California poppy. You can have color from natives. So there are so many plants that are just considered water-wise. They don't have to be a native or a succulent. They simply are water-wise. And so I'm going to show you a few here. First up, this is Gaura, and Gaura comes in pinks and whites and kind of a lot of different variations of pink and white in between. But this plant, although it looks tiny right now, it'll kind of grow to be about 2 to 3 feet tall and sort of tumbleweed shaped. It'll bloom almost the entire year, and get it in there in fall and it is going to just grow like crazy. We also have lavender. Everybody loves lavender, and a lot of people have problems growing it. One of the things you can do is grow Spanish lavender. It's a lot easier, it's a lot more compact, so it's better for most gardens. But the one thing about lavender that you really need to remember is to not water it too often, have really well draining soil, and to cut it back after it flowers. The Spanish varieties are a lot more forgiving of cutting it back, but still it's always good. It's going to have much better flowering and you won't see all of the old dead flowers in there. We also have this really cute little Kufia. This is called a false, not a false heather, but kind of like a false heather. And it comes in a lot of different colors. It can be white, it can be pink, it can be a larger plant. This is one called Itsy Bitsy. So you can tell it's gonna stay pretty tiny and really cute, very, very water-wise once it gets established. Then this beautiful plant, technically this is a succulent, but it doesn't look like a succulent. People don't feel that they're succulents. This is a euphorbia and it's called Ascot Rainbow. Now this alone is filled with color and texture for your garden, but it also will get these really cute little flower type things at the ends of it, and it's really, really easy to grow. Euphorbia is part of a family that has a milky sap that comes out that can be a little bit irritating to some people's skin, but it's not poisonous. You just want to take care when you're pruning it back. And lastly for right now, I have this little ollie. Little ollies are such a great plant for so many reasons. You can use them as a hedging plant. You can use them as a small topiary. You can prune them back to look like a little teeny tiny olive tree in a pot. They are so just useful. You can use them for so many things, and of course they're drought tolerant. They have no fruit whatsoever, and they only get 4 to 6 feet tall, so they're perfect for a lot of small gardens. And look at how great it looks with the natives over here. Of course it can be planted with them. Next up is our butterfly and pollinator garden. Planting these in fall is great because, again, you're going to get the roots established. You're going to provide food for all pollinators all winter long. When the weather's a little bit cooler, maybe some other flowers aren't giving them the sustenance that they need. Sometimes butterflies will come by. Most of them will be gone for the cooler weather, but then if they do show up, like monarchs who might just kind of go out a little bit from their overwintering home, they'll come out, they'll look for food, and you will provide it for them. Attracting pollinators to your garden is always so important. Look for plants that bees are actually already on. Then you'll know that it really has a lot of nectar and a lot of pollen. You can bring them all in. And then when you want to attract butterflies, and bees can do this as well, but butterflies like a flower that looks like a landing pad. So you can see this yarrow or achillea. This has this gorgeous landing pad, and that means there are so many flowers here. It's very easy for them to get a lot of sustenance from one plant rather than having to hop from plant to plant. We have these buddleias. These also have these beautiful spiky flowers, but there's so many here, it's very easy for them to get a lot of nutrition from it. Providing food for pollinating insects is really important year-round. Not all flowers will bloom all the time, so keeping a rotating crop is really good. If you come into Rogers Gardens, we can help you find the plants that will bloom on and off all year, giving you color, giving them sustenance, and you can enjoy their visits year-round. So fall is a season that you would also want to plant your succulents, and the reason for this is that succulents actually are dormant in the summer, and they might kind of shrink up a little bit, not be quite so vibrant or alive, but when you plant them in the fall, their roots can sink in, they're going to start growing, they might start flowering as well, and that is a super great way to get them established. When you plant your succulents, what you'd like to do is, if you're going to do it in your garden, you're going to mix your native soil there with some cactus mix or maybe just some pumice, something to lighten up your soil so that the water will drain through. You don't want the cactus roots and succulent roots to be sitting in soil just wet. It's got to drain past them. Another hint is to, when you're watering, don't get the water inside the plant here. You want to water the soil down at the base of it, otherwise it can rot. Another thing, Water maybe very, very deeply once a week in the winter, maybe even every 2 weeks. As long as you're watering really deeply, getting that water way down there, they're going to be fine. And then of course, as you move through the year, try and remember succulents are named succulent because they like to have water in them. They will survive without as much water, but you want to keep them nice and plump and juicy. When you plant succulents, if you want to have really good impact, there are a couple things you can do, whether it's monoplanting, which is planting a ton of the same thing to give really big impact, or you can plant kind of in groups of 3. So grab a big one, a more medium one, and then a smaller one, but group them together. Sometimes people might have a tendency to plant them kind of, you'll come into Rogers and you'll see this one, this one, this one, oh, I like all these, and then you'll plant them kind of separately, but massed together, they're going to have a lot more impact. One thing that a lot of people don't realize about succulents is that they do bloom, and so it is kind of an added bonus to them. Because they really only bloom about once a year, I wouldn't consider that the most important part, although there are succulents like Calandrinia that will bloom for months and months and months, and they're kind of like orchids. They have pink blossoms, which is very unusual, and they bloom all the way out to the ends. But a lot of other aloes have beautiful orange or yellow flowers, and a lot of the smaller echeverias will always send out a spike of color. So consider that just kind of a bonus that hummingbirds and other pollinators really enjoy. So we have a lot of talk about water restrictions and water schedules and things like that. So many people are looking for lawn alternatives, which is fabulous. We are for that. So you want to consider what you want to do with your lawn, whether it's, take a big rectangle and make it a little bit smaller and just a little bit more pleasant, or you can just simply replace what you have there. If you want to have something to walk on, Diamondia is a great choice. By the way, these are all ground cover flats, and so this is a really economical way to replace things on your hillside or as a lawn or something. So you buy it like this, and it's supposed to be 64 plants, but as it grows, sometimes it gets to be a little bit more, but you just divide it up and you can just plug it into your area. But this is Diamondia, and it is a great, super drought tolerant plant. Once it gets established, it has little occasional yellow flowers that pop up. They're kind of like little daisy flat things that are in there, but you can walk on Diamondia. And so it's really neat. When it's really warm, the leaves will kind of curl up so you see a little bit more of the silver, and when it's cooler, it is going to be a little bit more flat and like this, and you can see the green. It's stunning. If you're maybe looking for an area to fill, like a hillside or just a big area that you want to see green, but maybe you won't be walking on it, this is Myoporum, and this variety is called Puta Creek. And as you can see, it is big, it is lush, and it spreads like crazy. It has really, really cute little white flowers on it, and it will really fill and be very, very water-wise for you. Succulents, we have this gorgeous little Senecio, and a lot of people are used to those Senecios that kind of have the big kind of long fingers. This is a really cute little variety. Sometimes people call this little pickle, but it is really sweet and nice, and it can complement a lot of your garden areas. I always tell people, remember the word succulent when you're planting them, because they like to have water occasionally. They cannot be ignored. You want them to be big and lush and succulent. And this one here, is this not stunning? This is Lantana. And Lantana can come as a ground cover all the way up to a big hedging plant, but this will fill in a lot of areas. And if you have pollinators that you want to attract, butterflies, bees, anything like that, this is so great. And also don't forget that you can mix these. You can have a little wave of Myoporum and then a wave of Lantana and a little bit of Diamondia if you want to walk through. And so you can create an entire environment there for you and all of your visitors to the garden. So thank you for joining me. I'm so glad we could learn about fall planting together. Don't forget to go to rogersgardens.com for all your shopping and information needs. We have Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, and our very important YouTube channel where you can go, subscribe, and see all of our videos that we've made to help you in your home and garden.